Everybody, call the public hearing to order at 6 o'clock on Monday, June 22nd, and I have asked Mr. Hancock to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving down to public hearing item 2C, proposed expenditure budget for fiscal year 26-27. I'll turn it over to Dr. Wilson.
And I'm going to turn it over to Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Perez.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. During our last board meeting, I did a presentation regarding the budget. There are no changes that are being presented here, but just as a quick overview, the budget being proposed for adoption includes an overall 23% enrollment decline from the current year going into the new fiscal year for central campus programs, and it also includes a 5% decline over the satellite programs that are from those approved districts. Just to further clarify, the 23% excludes the enrollment from the 9-member districts for which we don't have an approved IGA.
All right, thank you. We had a lengthy discussion on this one last time around. Is there any other discussion before we close the public hearing? All right, hearing none, we'll move to action item 3A, adjournment of public hearing. Do we have a motion?
I so move that we go on to the second meeting.
All right, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, please call is there any discussion on the motion? Please call the vote by acclamation.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, I am now calling to order our regular meeting at 6:02. And that moves us to item 5A, presentations and recognitions for the TSA scores. Dr. Wilson.
Mr. President, members of the governing board, one of the commitments we made to you over the course of months is to bring to you data that reflects some of the success that we're having as a district and also some of the challenges. We've been very mindful that when we talk about the district, it's not just only satellite or central, it's a combination of the both. And so you'll see tonight when we talk about the TSA, it's reflecting not only central campus results, but also satellite campus results. As a reminder, TSA is technical skills assessment. Every single one of our programs, almost every single one of our programs, some don't, but almost every single one of our programs has a TSA, which is a state administered exam, to kind of gauge the benchmark of how well we're doing or areas that we need to improve upon. And so tonight, Dr. Frimmer is going to present to you, and I want to give Dr. Frimmer and her department credit because the data that we have gone over, not only tonight, but for the last months, is generated out of her department. So Dr. Frimmer, thank you, and take it away.
There we go.
Yeah, it's too loud. All right, thank you. But TSA presentation, like I said, is the last of the presentations we've done for this year. I'm going to kind of go through which data we're looking at and what are the things we can pull out of it. So jumping into it, first of all, this is 24-25 data, and the reason for that, there's two reasons. One, all of the data you've looked at for the last 6 months is 24-25 completer data, and so in order for consistency, we have that data. In addition, the state still allows districts to update their enrollment through August, so the data could shift because of the numbers and shifting between now and August. So one of the conversations that Dr. Doolin and I have had is TSA data is available quickly, like we have last spring's data. So if that's something the board wanted to see sooner, that could be a fall presentation in future years. But for right now, for consistency, we stuck with 24-25 for that. You know, in addition, though, we did make changes to this data based upon the request of the sending districts last year. And this year, you'll see that this is student-level data. And what that means is we looked at every student who was in a completer course or beyond, and if they ever took the TSA. Not did they take the TSA in 24-25, but did they ever take it? So they could have taken it in prior years. And that was actually a great suggestion because it did show a different trend in the data than what we've looked at when we look at a single year. So we'll start out with a summary. It's always good to start. And you'll notice in the summary, As a district, we do great. We test 26,000 students. We have testing, and we ended up with over an 87% of those students pass the TSA sometime prior in 2024, 25 or prior. And so overall, a pretty strong rate. You will notice some variation in the districts, especially between the two columns. You know, and the difference, the first column is the number of completers. The second one is those that passed. And so we're going to look on the next couple of slides, district by district, about why some of those variations are. But questions on this one before I jump off?
This is very impressive, both in the volume of testers, but also the overall percentage of completers passing, which for those who can't see is 87.3, and then the completers who passed here at the central campuses of 95.5, and that's over 5,000. So that's really impressive.
And actually, we looked it up last year. We were about 10% of the state's TSA testers, so. All right, so jumping in district, we'll start with, always starting
I'm
with.
sorry, Dr. Furman, when you say 10% of the state, that was as a district or as at the central campus?
Actually, I believe EVIT was 10% of the state testers in 24, 25.
Even as a district?
And then we added in the sending districts, we were different specific.
The total number of TSAs across,
Correct.
okay,
Yeah.
great.
So if we jump into us, like I said, and this is just the bottom of each chart. You guys all have the full chart, so it wouldn't fit on the screen. But to give you an idea of what this looks like, you know, the first column is, you know, is the state pass rate, because everything in our quality, we're always comparing ourselves to the state pass rate. The second column is the number of students we tested, and the third column is how many of those students that we tested pass. That's the data the state looks at. So when the state looks at TSA passers, they look out of those that tested, how many passed. We added at EVIT the next two columns, which is the total students who could have tested, as well as, and then looking at the pass rate, because that looks at that gap of why didn't the students test? What are the missing students? For us, you'll notice if you look at the bottom, there's about an 1,100 student gap. However, over 900 of those are students in programs that don't have a TSA. We tend to have a lot of LOPs, and also in 24, 25, the trades didn't have a TSA as well. And so that's where, so realistically, we only have about 200 of our students that made it through our programs and didn't take the TSA at that point, which is the 95%.
So I hate to belabor the point, but just to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying, the first green column, or the first column that has the green in it, that's the percentage of the students that actually took the test, that
Correct.
passed.
Right.
The next column is the number of students that could have taken the test or should have taken the test, but didn't for whatever reason. And then the last column reflects what that percentage then looks like with that denominator changing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
From the state's perspective, who does the state expect to take the exam?
Any student who makes it to the completer course. So at EVIT, that would be, for most of our programs, that's the end of year one. It's our second semester, with the exception of our medical programs and now aviation. Everybody else, it's the end of our second semester. Most districts, it's the second year, with a few programs being the third year, like the auto programs.
So at the central campus, a student that gets into second semester, from the state's perspective, should be counted in the denominator for this data set.
Correct.
At the satellite campus, the student that is counted as the denominator is a student that starts the second year typically.
Correct. All of the first year students, the whole persistence issue isn't reflected in the sending districts because we're only looking at the students in the completer class.
Yeah.
Perfect. So jumping to ALA.
Can I, before we do,
sure.
so, I mean, these are very strong results, right? Like 96% of the students who take it pass it at the central campuses. To what do you attribute that success?
I mean, I think there's a number of factors. The TSA is, it's a 100-question multiple choice test that directly aligns to the standards of the program. So as long as the curriculum is aligned, you know, there should be passing. We expect our students to pass. We have a conversation with our teachers. We expect 100% pass rate. Also, passing is only 60%. So it really just means they got 60% of the standards that were taught. So we do tend to have the conversations with our teachers at the TSA, although the state counts it as a end exam, we count it as minimal expectations. And so that is where we actually, as soon as, and you'll see a couple of programs and we know who they are, they don't do as well. And we've had conversations. For example, I believe aircraft mechanic was on there, and we've spent a year working with a third party and teachers to rewrite the curriculum for aircraft mechanics so that by next year's results, we won't see that. So when we
Great.
see them not passing, we address it quickly.
That's helpful, thank you.
Okay. All right, so ALA was similar, had strong results, like I said, similar strong results. They had, a few more students who didn't test, and that's why their percentage went down to the 89% overall. But an interesting thing you'll notice when the columns line up as well, when the green columns line up, it's showing that it's not making a significant difference, the few students they didn't test in their overall pass rate, and that's also important. If it shifts from green to yellow, it's showing that that is having a bigger impact, and you'll see some programs where that does happen. And then here's an example where Dr. Wilson was talking about where if they don't have a lot of completers, there's not a lot of data. So in the case of Apache Junction in 24-25, they only had one program where students even reached the completer. 14 of the 15 students did take the test and pass. So it was good results, but they were just starting out to move in that direction.
Sure.
But Cave Creek, still strong data, 99%. So the majority of their students, I think they have one student that didn't take and pass it. So going back to, how Dr. Wilson's mentioned a number of times, the students that are making it through the programs are doing well.
Yeah.
And this data does back that up for most of the districts. Chandler, in the larger districts, you tend to see a little more shifting. So if you're looking at Chandler's data, there's about 700 students who made it to the completer class who never tested. So that's a conversation with them of what happened. Were they planning to test them a year later? Because you can, if you miss the test, you can test later. Or was there another reason they didn't test, which shows this. And now you'll notice the green to yellow shifting because of that. Fountain Hills had none at that point in 24-25 that tested, meaning they had no students that made it to the completer class, and I think that aligns with some of the data you saw earlier in the year on where they were at. But, Gilbert did well. Like I said, they had a few hundred students that didn't show up. But, and again, their data is pretty consistent across the board. Higley as well. Straightforward, most of their students tested. What does it look like? 100 students that didn't, not even. So they are testing the ones that get to the end. J.O. Combs is a different story. J.O. Combs, for some reason, about half the students that made it to the completer courses didn't test, and that's why the huge drop in their data.
So something that I know we are working towards district-wide and that we've approved positions for is supporting, and that we've aimed to build into IGA drafts, is further support for partner districts, satellite programs improving outcomes. So my assumption would be when we get to an IGA agreement that we would be able to leverage some of the supports from the central campus to address something like we're seeing here at J.O. Combs. Is that correct?
Yeah, a logical conversation would be an explanation of this data, like what happened to those other 600 students that didn't test and what was the reason? Because, like I said, the test itself tends not to be the problem. So there's another factor contributing to why those students didn't test.
Sure.
And I think, Dr. Fremer, you helped me understand better a bit earlier that the far right column reflects students that either didn't test or potentially tested and didn't pass. Is that correct?
They could be, in some cases, like a SPED students and all that, they get removed from the data. So there could be a factor as well. So that's why I said there's more going on. We can't just look at the data by itself. What the data tells us, it's kind of like what we did internally with ourselves, is it's time for a conversation. And that's what we did with our programs, like when we identified one program that wasn't factoring.
And I think to your point, Mr. Boyle, that the TSA is one data set, and I know it's dragged over many months, but if we start feathering together all of the data sets, then I think that creates a much more robust, comprehensive conversation. And to your point, the reason why we do want to have a more robust curriculum department is to lean in and find out and have these conversations, and what can we do to help align the curriculum if that's the case. Or if we look at it and say that it's really a persistence issue, then what can we do with our counseling department to work with their counseling department to build? So it's those components, when you line them all together, that paints a much clearer picture on support that is needed and that we would like to provide through the IGA.
So I just have another question. So in this case here, where we go from green to yellow to completely yellow, obviously, those are going to have to be some inquiries that'll have to take place. So my question is, were you able to see, and I think you said you mentioned that the 25-26 test data is available. Were you able to see the comparison between 24-25 and 25 and 26 for J.O. Combs?
So we've looked at our own data on that comparison. We haven't looked at the census.
Oh, you haven't looked
yet.
at theirs?
Yeah,
Okay.
we have not.
Is there any way that we could start those, we can't start those conversations until we have an IGA in place, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, there are some, you'll see that we do have an IG in place with
Yeah,
some.
yeah.
And we can have those conversations, and that's part of the work that we're going to do, is to kind of start digging in with the resources we have with the Scottsdales and the
Yeah.
Mesas and the ALAs. What can we do to help lean in and support capacity within our programs on your campus?
Okay. Thank
I
you.
do have a question. Up there, you have medical assisting at yellow at 89.7% in the passing rate, and digital communication at lower percent, 88.89%. Why is it green, or should it be yellow, or both of those
If
be
you look
green?
at the first column, it's we're comparing it to the state, so unless something got colored wrong, I believe. The first column, we're comparing it to the state pass rate. So for digital communication, the state pass rate was 75%. And so 88% is above it, so that's why it's green. It's, are we above it? If you go to medical assisting, the state pass rate was 95%. So
Okay.
they weren't above it. So it's comparing it to the state rate.
Thank you.
It's helpful.
Yeah, which you will notice a huge variation in some programs of the state rate, and we account for that as well. There's certain programs where statewide they struggle, but again, that's why we compare it to the state.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Mesa was another one where we did see the drop, and like I said, do see a lot of yellow. Mesa being one of our districts, so to go to what you said, it is a conversation we can start having with them. Queen Creek, like I said, relatively good, 96%, so consistent. Scottsdale, like I said, there was somewhat of a drop, but it wasn't significant, and you can notice the programs where it happens. So again, we can start having the conversations about the specific programs. And Tempe Union, like I said, and this is the end of the chart, relatively strong data overall, 93, but what's interesting with them, and we saw this in some of that, and that's why you have the full charts, it varies dramatically by school as well. And so when we have the larger districts of numerous schools, you can see the difference from schools, which also is great conversations to have. You know, we do the same internally. We look at ours by campus. We don't see a dramatic difference, but we do look at the data that way. So overall, like I said, pretty straightforward, the TSA data, like I said, and it really does, although it's, like I said, we count it as almost like a minimal expectation, it does give a lot of information because everybody who makes it through the program should be passed. Okay.
Yeah, this is really helpful, and I think it's great to see the effort that goes into the curricular alignment and then support for instructors, I think is borne out in really strong results. So major kudos to you and your team for those outcomes.
Thank you.
It's a lot of work crunching all those numbers.
Most of that goes to Nicole Q.
So I would be remiss if I didn't, once again, say what I say quite a bit, is that when we look at those numbers repeatedly, we've said that if a student at the satellite campus level persists into completing the program, they do as
do
good,
really well.
in some cases better than the central campus. And so the issue has never been, what's the outcome of the student that actually completes the program? The issue has always been, how many of those students start the program and don't persist to the end program? In there is, I think, the challenge, because if you use the denominator to be the students that started the program, you would have a very different graph. And I'm not saying that that's fair or unfair, I'm just saying that's why persistence matters, because the success on the TSA, the industry certifications, the placement, all is driven by the students that start and complete a program. And so when we start looking at collectively all of this data, I think it is fair to celebrate the success at the satellites, because we have great success with those students that complete. The challenge becomes, how do we get more students completing the program?
Sure. Cool, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Okay, 6A, regular meeting minutes for June 8th. Do we have a motion?
I motion we accept the minutes from the June 8th meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mr. President, I'll abstain from the
All
vote
right.
as I was absent.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, please call the vote by acclamation.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. 7A, call to the public,
No, sir.
right? Thank you. 8, consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I so move we approve A through F as one consent agenda.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, please call the vote by acclamation.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, 9A and B, personnel. Do we have a motion?
I'll move 9A and B, or personnel agenda.
Do we have a
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Dr. Wilson?
Not from my end. This is just the time of year in which we're actually gearing up for next year. So you'll see there's a lot of PATs in there for existing employees to do extra duties that we've had this year. So it looks like there's a lot of number, but it's actually just all that we typically do this time of year to get ready for the new school year.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the vote by acclamation.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. All right, action items. We have a few. 10A, the proposed budget. We discussed this last time around and earlier, so I don't think there's anything additional to add. Do we have a motion on the proposed expenditure
I
budget?
so move we pass the budget for
All right.
next year.
I second.
Okay, thank you. We had quite significant discussion on the budget last time around, but is there further discussion on the proposed budget? All right, well, before we head into the vote, I just want to note, thank you to Ms. Perez and your team for putting this together. I know it is a fiscally conservative budget that also, I think, will maintain the quality of programs, maintain staff here on central campuses, all of which I know are very important to us. So thank you for putting that together under uncertain circumstances, to say the least. We appreciate it. With that being said, since this is a budget, let's go for a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Lane?
Aye.
Covington?
Aye.
Hancock?
Aye.
Metcalf?
Aye.
Hunt?
Aye.
Watkins? Okay, he's muted, but we could see he said aye.
We
Does
read
that
his
count?
lips.
Do thumbs up or thumbs down, because we can't hear you, Mr. Watkins. Thumbs up.
That's an aye.
Legal works. Okay. Mr. Hobson? Also
dear.
thumbs up, please. Thank you.
There we go.
Okay, McAfee is an aye. Mr. Boyle?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, 10B, policy revision, second read. Counselor?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that the same two we presented at the last meeting. The first one is to bring our mission statement in alignment with our branding, and the second one is to clarify the vacation and holiday schedule for administrators.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion on the policy revision?
I'll move that we accept the policy revisions A and B.
I'll second.
Okay.
No, well, that's wrong. That should just be B. I'm sorry.
All right, there we go.
I'll second.
And is there any discussion? Okay, please call the vote by acclamation.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none, motion carries.
Okay, 10C, CTED satellite programs, new program approvals on a probationary basis. Dr. Wilson.
Mr. President, members of the Governing Board, back in March, we had a conversation about 2 virtual programs that American Leadership Academy was interested in getting approved for next year. And one of the challenges and charges the Governing Board gave to administration was to go do some research and find out, is that viable, is it sustainable, is there an outcome expectation that's doable in the virtual setting? And so we said we would do that, and we come and bring you back unpack our findings and come back to you with a recommendation. And here tonight is Ms. Schwartz, and she's going to walk you through the work that she's done to get to the point of recommending approval.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Mr. President, members of the board, thank you for having me come up and talk about our ALA Virtual Academy, the graphic design and marketing programs they are requesting. So you had requested at that governing board meeting that we work with ALA to get a bit more information on the curriculum, mainly looking at, are we achieving that 51% hands-on? That was our main concern. So we did go back and work shoulder to shoulder with ALA in doing a deeper dive into the curriculum and working with that. And I do want to say that I commend ALA for working with us, and the presentation that they had given to us. It was very detailed, it was very outlined with weekly agendas. It outlined the standards, total time, hands-on time, the live sessions, the guided practice, how it ties to certification prep, how it ties to CTSO, the project-based learning. It was a very detailed curriculum that ALA came back and presented to us. So I would like to commend them for all their work they put into that. We do recognize that this is a pilot. We've never done a virtual program approval before, so we wanted to make sure that we're putting the right foot forward and kind of dotting all of our I's and crossing all of our T's with our recommendation for this program's approval. So with that, we did look at their curriculum, and they did meet as we reviewed it, we feel comfortable moving forward. They did meet the legal compliance requirement, and we do feel comfortable moving forward, recommending for approval on a probationary basis because we've never done anything like this before. It is a pilot program. So looking at our metrics that we look at and how are they doing year over year in terms of retention, certification, and TSA pass rate.
So I have a question. How is the 51% hands-on lab portion working for both of these programs? How are they verifying that that's indeed the case?
Yep, great question. So they have the guided practice with the instructor, right, doing that hands-on, so they would need to submit that online through hands-on, but also they did submit their projects for each of those 2 different programs, and it is very detailed. So for example, they had a concept development and how long that would take, sketch and exploration, how long that would take for that project, then just design justification, and then the short design explanation. So each project that they submitted was also very detailed in how long that project itself would take.
So another question on that. What's their model? How are they using another model from another similar type of online program or school to make sure that this is going to fulfill the requirements of the 51% minimum hands-on lab portion of both of these programs? Are they using that, or did they create their own?
Great question. So they took a combination, from what I can tell, they took a combination of what they currently offer in graphic design in the traditional school setting, and then kind of modified that for virtual, because when we are in the traditional in-school setting, a lot of it is computer-based. The instructor does guide, and then they go and do based on the computer. So it did model that, just not necessarily having the in-person instruction with the instructor right there, but more of a guided practice with the instructor virtually.
And the same thing with marketing?
Yes, both programs. Yes, it was very detailed.
What kind of curriculum are they using? Again, are they using a national curriculum? Is it an Edgenuity program, or is it something they created on their own?
So it seems to be a combination of items from the Curriculum Consortium and other things that they've created on their own.
Okay.
How many other virtual classes do they have at ALA, do you know?
So they do not have any other virtual CTE programs, CTE courses.
Regular?
Correct. But they do have a virtual academy where all of those courses that they offer are online courses.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Since we have an IGA with ALA, and this is going to be an experiment, more or less.
Yes.
What kind of oversight are we planning to provide and support that kind of thing, to make sure that the presentation that was provided is actually in place.
Yes, fortunately, we have, as you have approved, 2 instructional specialists that are
Right.
coming on board to help work shoulder to shoulder with those sending satellite programs, and that will be one of their duties, will be to review curriculum, meet with instructors, and verify those outcomes.
Okay.
President. If we approve this, is this just for this next semester period, or is it for a year?
That's my understanding. I'll allow
Yeah,
Dr.
it's a
Wilson.
it's a
You're okay
year-long
here.
program. Yeah, it's a year-long program, but you are, like every other program in the CTED, it'll come back to you again at the end of next year for approval for 27, 28.
Okay, so that's just, okay.
Another question, what kind of advisory panels are they having in place for these programs?
So all of our programs are required to have the advisory panels,
Right.
and that will be another item that our instructional specialists and helping to set up to make sure that they're meeting best practices for the advisory boards.
Okay, so they don't actually have anything in place or propose to be in place for the advisory panels?
So these are currently being, to my understanding, being used as electives right now.
Right.
And we are moving into the CTE realm, so that would be something new that they would be setting up, but we would make sure that they would have the supports necessary to run those advisory panels.
And I think that's a great segue into some of the work that we can provide, right? Because we have advisory panels for all of our programs, and so the ability for us to lean in and support with some of those assets that we have is a great example of how the partnership works. We may have that opportunity that we can grow them into as well.
I'm sorry, one more question. What kind of verification of seat time are we looking at for these programs?
So again, going back to the monitoring and the instructor monitoring, and with the instructional specialists working shoulder to shoulder with those instructors, verifying that the assignments are being completed, the students that are progressing in the program are meeting those requirements.
And will we be receiving documentation on that based on what the presentation provided, like a weekly submission of seat time and hands-on time or lab time?
That's a great question. So we haven't necessarily structured that to that much detail yet. Potentially envisioning checking in initially in the beginning more frequently than as time goes on, to see how that program itself is running.
I'd like to recommend that for an online program, and I struggle with this as a principal with an online program at my high school. It is seat time and engagement time that's challenging. Now, that's probably a different group of students. I'm an alternative learning environment, so there are challenges there. But engaging students in their classes based on what the state requires, and then we have the CTE component on top of it, is very, very challenging, and it can lead to a ADE visit, which most of us don't need or want. But what I'm saying is, to keep that away from us, I'd like to see, I'm not saying now, but I'd like to see a little bit more structure on how the students who are going to be on the online program are going to be engaging in seat time. I mean, we don't call it seat time, it's online engagement time, are going to be able to fulfill that. Because my concern would be, number one, it comes back to us, and then it takes them into another realm of having to deal with Department of Ed and a corrective action plan if they can't seem to get it right, just because of the challenge that online learning environments have in general by nature of design.
Sure,
So that is something I'd like to see, just to make sure that everybody is moving forward in the right direction.
Of course. If I may, I do believe that ALA also uses Canvas as their learning management system, and Canvas does function where it logs online.
They do, it does, yes,
So
Canvas does, it has
That's
a,
one way that we can verify, but of course, if they're completing these projects, might not necessarily be in Canvas completing the projects, but it's
Right.
one way to help us monitor.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good discussion. Is there anything else? All right, I don't think we have a motion yet. Do we have a motion on 10C?
I move that we approve item 10C, new program approvals on probationary basis for ALA. I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All right, let's call the vote by roll call, please.
Okay. Lane,
Aye.
Covington,
Aye.
Hancock,
Aye.
Metcalf,
Aye.
Hunt,
Aye.
Watkins. That was an aye. Hobson. Aye. McAfee's an aye. Boyle.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thanks.
Can I ask a quick question? Do we know why we're not hearing their voices? No?
Somebody working on it?
Yeah, can we figure out why we're not hearing their voices, please? And-
Testing, yeah.
Have they cut us off the sound up there? Hobson, I'm sure you have.
We can see you.
Can call them up.
No, they can hear us.
Yeah.
They could ask questions through the chat if somebody watched that while we continue.
Yeah.
I think we can move forward, and then
Yeah.
please do keep working on that, because I imagine it'll be important to have them for 11, certainly. Okay, action item 10D, credentials for secondary programs. Dr. Wilson.
Mr. President, members of the governing board, every year at this time, we bring to you the approval of credentials that the governing board authorizes. There's two different sets of credentials. One is the quality indicator credentials that we've talked about repeatedly when we talk about going for quality. Those matter for a couple different reasons. One, they matter because as we start talking about quality across the district, there needs to be an artifact that we can point to that would justify or indicate what that quality looks like. And so you'll see that there's the quality indicators. It's also, those indicators are the indicators that qualify for 301 performance funding here internally. So it's important that we let our faculty and staff know from the get-go, the beginning of the year, what certifications are going to be qualified as quality certifications. You see there's a second set of certifications, though, that are also needing your approval, and those are the certifications that may not necessarily be quality certifications, but also are certifications that have value within the structure of the organization. As an example, we've talked about OSHA before. Well, OSHA is not necessarily a quality certification, but it's also a certification that does carry with it some value that we want to make sure we recognize. And so tonight we're asking you just to approve both the certification indicators, both the quality and then just the standard certification indicators for next year.
So it looks to me that every program has at least one quality certification.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things, and as we work with our member districts and we talk about programs, there are some programs that are in our member districts that have certifications. They meet state requirement, but they don't necessarily have the quality certification. And so how can we help them grow into that quality certification that's really the currency the student needs for him or for he or she to have the leg up or leg in the career they're choosing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think quality certifications are very, very important. So I'm glad that we've developed this and can consider it. So let's see, is there a motion for action item 10D? I will move the approval of the industry certifications for the school year 26-27.
Mr. President, I second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Okay, let's call the vote by acclamation, please.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, they, affirmative motions. Motion carries.
Okay, thanks. All right, 11A, do we have a motion in an executive session?
I move that we move into executive session for both A and B.
I'll second.
Okay, is any discussion? Let's call the vote by acclamation, please.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Question, do you think if we went in the fishbowl that the sound would work?
Might as
So
well
do you want
try
to
it.
move into the fishbowl for the executive session tonight?
Sounds like a plan.
Not really.
them?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
So Mr.
So,
Hobson can't.
no, he can't. So we'll,
You don't do A,
okay, we don't need to do A.
you don't need to.
No, we don't need to do A, we just need to do 12B. Well, first off, I've got to bring us back officially, I suppose. So, welcome back, everybody. We are back in regular session, it's 7:48 PM. I believe we'll have a motion on just 12B, possible action regarding a performance bonus for the superintendent. And as much as I would love to hear the motion potentially from Mr. Watkins or Mr. Hobson, we actually can't hear you, which will make it difficult for you to make a motion, unfortunately. So, do we have a motion on action item 12B?
I move to award the superintendent a performance bonus of 20% of his base salary under the terms of his employment contract.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
it. Go
Okay,
ahead.
fighting over the second here.
I surrendered.
And just by way of discussion, we discussed this in executive session. All right, let's take the vote by roll call, please.
Mr. Lane is gone, let me mark that. Covington?
Aye.
Hancock?
Aye.
Metcalf?
Aye.
Hunt?
Aye.
Watkins? Affirmative thumb up, yep. Hobson? Thumbs up. McAfee is an aye. Boyle?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. President, members of the governing board, I'd like to thank you. I've told you this before. I'm very grateful for the opportunity I have here at EVIT, and I've been given here at EVIT. And the compensation is wonderful, but truly, and I don't say this because it's the truth, this is by far the best organization, public or school organization I've worked in my career, and I've been in this profession for over 30 years. And so to come to a place and work for a body that truly puts students, in my opinion, best interest at heart is a pleasure. So thank you very much for the opportunity to work for you.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you for your leadership. And I think, as we took a look a couple weeks ago at the results across the district in terms of certification outcomes and in terms of TSA passing rates that we looked at today, in terms of retention and their variety of factors. And so we're just grateful for your leadership. Thank you for the work that you're doing. And with that being said, it's your turn again on staff reports.
I would like to just reiterate again, I know that Dr. Schreiner and her team, and I know Chris and his team, there's a collective group that spent literally months, Ms. Perez and her team months, and then hours over the last week and a half on OFI days, our fee days. And, to walk through there and see our faculty and staff, that it created such a seamless process, such an efficient process, was wonderful. But more important to me was the feedback I got from our families about how enjoyable the process was, how much they enjoyed engaging with our faculty and our staff, how polite and supportive and helpful. When we talk about who we expect ourselves to be, we can be efficient, but more than that, we got to be a place that people want to be a part of. And what we saw out of that process was efficiency, but also the feedback I got was that families and students are excited to be part of us. And so thank you all very much for what you did. I know it was a lot of planning, a lot of work, but it was hugely successful, so thank you. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Next meeting will be in the new school year. It's the only meeting in July, so make sure that is on your calendars on July 13th, 2026 at 6. The first day of school is on Wednesday, July 27th.
Yes.
So we'll be certain to see everybody back one more time before school begins. I think we've talked about, is there anything to add to the calendar for next time? I think we're good.
For now.
Okay. With that being said, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Is there a
to
second?
adjourn This meeting.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, please say, that's your turn.
Nope, you got it.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.